We have some interest in this planning matter, but there's people still waiting to come in, so we need their contact information. A slight delay.
Like one of the first clinics.
Yeah. Okay, one more. Welcome, everyone. It is a few minutes after 5 o'clock, our appointed starting hour, but we had lots of interest in this afternoon's proceedings, so happy to wait a few minutes while we get the contact information of everyone joining us today. So welcome. We're happy to have you join us in person, and there will be some who will be joining us virtually as well. Just want to take this opportunity to welcome all of our staff and council. Councillor Bartley is not able to join us today, but we do have quorum, so we can call this meeting to order. And welcome to County Planner Scott Taylor. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to you for joining us as well. With that, I will call this meeting to order and ask you all to join us in a moment of reflection. Thank you, everyone. This is a meeting of a planning meeting for the two issues that we have before us, two proposals to amend the land use planning permissions to certain lands in the municipality of Meaford. I must note that the Planning Act requires that a person who may later wish to file an appeal to Council's decision on the zoning bylaw amendments application must either provide verbal comments today at this public meeting or provide written comments to Council before the amendment are passed. The intention of this requirement is that only those people who have taken the time and the care to learn about the proposal and to engage in the planning process may have an opportunity to appeal a decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. While council is legally required to make decisions that conform to the county and local official plans, our guiding policies encourage us to reach out to you, members of this community, to hear your thoughts about the proposed changes. We have a variety of legal tools available to us that we can apply to development to help us ensure that the new uses can coexist with existing uses with as minimal an impact as possible. So your constructive comments will help us to learn more about the neighborhood in which you live, and this in turn will help staff and council to select the right tools to manage change effectively and in a manner that honors our community values and priorities. Those who have pre-registered for today's meetings will have an opportunity to speak remotely or in person. You do not have to be solely in favor or in opposition. It really is okay to share your thoughts about those elements that you do or that you don't like, and to ask questions as well. The applicants will have an opportunity to respond to questions and comments at the end of the meeting, and in some cases we may need to have staff carry out research on some of the matters raised and to provide answers or additional information to you following the meeting. So I will now call the first public meeting to order. This is a public meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Meaford to consider a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 396 Nelson Street West in the urban settlement area of the Municipality of Meaford. This meeting is a mandatory part of the planning process, which has been set out by the Planning Act. Based on the rules in the Act, there must be at least 20 days notice given to residents within 120 meters, a minimum 120 meters of the property. I note that notice of the zoning bylaw amendment was issued on September the 15th, 2021, and that constitutes a 20 days notice. So off we go. First, I will ask our planner, Kirsten Morris, to share a brief description of the application and to provide us with any public and agency comments that have been received to date. Kristen, over to you.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So the Committee of Adjustment granted approval of consent application B25-2021 to sever the existing dwelling from the balance of 396 Nelson Street West, measuring approximately 1,900 meters square in size. And the retained parcel of vacant land maintains an area of approximately 3,150 meters squared in size, with 52 meters of frontage on Nelson Street West. The property is identified by the official plan as being suitable in principle for additional lot creation and new development, but is not yet fully serviced by municipal water and sewer. So in order to not bias against future development of the lands and to ensure future development of the retained parcel occurs comprehensively, a condition of consent approval is that the retained lands are rezoned in order to restrict development with use of a holding symbol or site-specific exception until a future fulsome proposal is provided, or to rezone the lands based on a fulsome proposal of the applicant now. In order to satisfy this condition of consent, the applicant has requested an amendment to the zoning bylaw to place a holding provision on the D-zoning of the retained parcel to prohibit any buildings or structures until such time that a future comprehensive and fulsome proposal for the entirety of the retained lands is submitted. And that would require a future rezoning at a later date. So in terms of comments, we received comment from the County of Grey, and they provided comments on the consent application, which they've identified continue to still apply to the current application. And to summarize those comments on the consent application, they indicated that provided full municipal services are available for the retained lot, the county has no concerns, and they would encourage the municipality to explore additional lot configuration options in order to take advantage of existing servicing infrastructure and better align with density provisions outlined in the county official plan. And then we also received a comment from Margaret McNally just requesting to be notified of future correspondence on the application. And that's everything that I have for now.
Thank you, Kirsten. So now we'll call upon the applicant's planner and the applicant himself to review the proposal in more detail and to provide any comments that they wish to about the application. Andrew Pescuso. Is Andrew with us?
Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead and welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Pescuso. I'm a registered professional planner here on behalf of Tim Exner, who is the owner of the subject lands. I assisted Tim with the consent approval that, as Kirsten has indicated, went to the Committee of Adjustment and was conditionally approved in August. Obviously here tonight in support of the zoning bylaw amendment application, asking for the hold to be placed on the retained lot. I'm not aware of any comments or concerns that have been presented by any of the agencies or any of the neighbors in the area. Just for information purposes, my client is currently renovating the existing single detached dwelling on the severed lot. Obviously, tonight's application is for the retained lot. So he's busy renovating and would just like to get on with satisfying the conditions of the consent, which he only technically has one year to proceed and fulfill. So that's why we're in front of you tonight, to get public feedback as well as agency feedback on the zoning bylaw amendment. I'm here to respond to or answer any questions that may come up. Tim is here as well, but I would do the lead on any responses. So that's it. I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for your comments. We don't have any pre-registrations for this meeting for comments by members of the public, but I would just ask if there's anyone in attendance here tonight who wishes to speak to this matter, and invite you to come forward to the microphone if you do. Okay. Is there anyone on council who would like to comment on this application? Councillor Kentner and Councillor Greenfield following.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the agent for the proponent. I just was curious, when there is talk of services coming from Ironwood Drive, there must be some consideration of a subdivision, and it's a very small parcel. Do you have any comment on future plans?
Madam Chair,
Please
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
Through you to the councillor. At this point, we don't have a development plan, so this is the reason we've applied to place it into a hold. We've looked at a number of scenarios, as well as had some kind of initial discussions with staff at the town and the county. We've looked at anything from potentially two lots to maybe more. But at this stage, as I said, my client's just concentrating on the renovation of the existing single dwelling. I would like to clarify that there is municipal water and sanitary sewer within Ironwood Drive. So anything that is developed on the retained partial will occur on full municipal services.
Thank you.
Okay, and anything further? No. Okay, Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Basically, Councillor Kettner has inquired what I was wondering about. I was wondering about the potential for an Ironwood Drive type extension, and I was also thinking about maybe three lots perhaps could be developed on Nelson Street. So there's some potential here, let's put it that way. And I have no problem with accepting this proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And nothing further from council? Okay, are there any further points from you, Kirsten, on this matter? And this brings us then to almost closing the meeting, but I will ask the proponent himself, if the owner, if Mr. Exner would have any comments to add.
if you can hear me okay, Madam Chair?
Yes, yes, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I have no further comments. Thank you very much.
All right, then I'll thank you for your time. Thank you for attending today. And I will bring this meeting to a close. This will be referred back to our Development Services staff to follow up on any additional information that may be required, and then this will come forward to Council at a later date once they are satisfied and have all the necessary information to help Council provide a decision in this matter. This report will evaluate how the proposal does or does not satisfy the provincial, county, and municipal policies that must be considered as part of Council's decision. It will also explore the various public and agency comments received regarding the application, noting that those tools which may be applied in order to address concerns raised and to mitigate potential impacts on nearby properties. If anyone listening to us would like to receive mailed notice of a future decision on this file, please provide your contact information by email at planning@meaford.ca. And that brings us this first planning meeting to a close. And I will now call the second meeting into order. This is a joint public meeting of the County of Grey and the Council of the Municipality of Meaford to consider a proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment for 324 Union Street in the urban area of Meaford. Again, I must note that the Municipality of Meaford Council is the approval authority for the zoning bylaw amendment being discussed today, but the County of Grey Council is the approval authority for the plan of subdivision proposal. However, both municipal and county staff and councils work collaboratively together on these applications. Again, this meeting is a mandatory part of the planning process, which has been set out by the Planning Act, and based on the rules in the Act, 20 days notice must be given to residents within 120 meters minimum of the property. And notice was provided on August the 24th, 2021, giving more than the 20 days notice. So first, I will ask Kirsten Morris to share a brief description of the application.
Yes, thank you. So I'm actually going to leave the application summary to the county and the applicant, since they have prepared some wonderful presentations for us. So I will just summarize the comments received to date. So in terms of agency comments, Bell Canada, they've indicated they have no objections. However, they advise the owner to contact Bell Canada during detailed design to confirm the provisioning of communication and telecommunication infrastructure needed to service the development. They also request that a condition of approval be included that the owner agrees that should any conflict arise with existing Bell Canada facilities where a current and valid easement exists within the subject area, the owner shall be responsible for the relocation of any such facilities or easements at their own cost. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority generally has no objection to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and overall draft plan of subdivision. However, more details regarding the stormwater management approach are going to be necessary as the development moves forward. The functional servicing and stormwater management report should be updated to address Grey Sauble Conservation Authority's concerns regarding the increase in runoff in post-development conditions. In terms of public comments, we have received written comments from Barbara Bracken, who has concerns about traffic volume and speed, drainage and stormwater management, and indicates that the density is too high for the area. Alan Buchanan is concerned about water supply and sewer capacity, traffic volume and safety, and concerns about the proposed stormwater management not being adequate and increase in surface runoff. Sandra Coburn, concerned with drainage, and provided photos of the existing drainage issues in the area, which have been circulated to council and the applicant. They suggest lot 17 should face Center Street and could be developed as green space, and also identified concerns about traffic safety and speed. Rob Harrison identified concerns about the preliminary water test results and also asked if municipal water could be extended to the vicinity of his parents' home at 309 Center Street so that they could connect. And then lastly, Deborah Kirbyson and Michael Lloyd. Their main concerns are the impact of density in the area related to the increased traffic and safety on Center Street. They have questions about parking and snow removal and also drainage and stormwater runoff concerns. And that's it for comments received. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. So over to you, Mr. Taylor, for your presentation you have for us.
Thank you, Mayor Klumpus and members of council and everybody joining us here tonight. So for those who don't know me, I am Scott Taylor. I am a planner with Grey County, and I'm here tonight in place of a colleague, Stephanie Lacey-Avon, who has been the planner working on this file, but Stephanie couldn't be with us here tonight. So as the mayor's mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this is a meeting to talk about both the subdivision and the zoning amendment. It is important to note that we're here tonight to listen, and there'll be no decisions made here tonight or recommendations from staff. This is simply the opportunity to listen, learn, and take back any comments. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide, please. Okay. I suspect most in the room here tonight will be familiar with the subject lands, but they are located there in purple on the screen. They're about 5.2 hectares in size, and they're between Center Street and Union Street, and you can see they're just south of the current Gates of Kent development. Just for reference purposes, that photo was taken in 2020, so any changes that are on the landscape since 2020 won't be reflected in the photo. I should also note that in preparation for this development, the developer, in conjunction with a team of consultants, has prepared a number of reports that are available for the public to review and comment on, including a planning report, an archaeological assessment, a geotechnical assessment, a stormwater management report, a functional servicing report, and a traffic opinion in this regard. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide. So what we see before us on this slide is a copy of what the draft plan of subdivision will look like, or what it's proposed to look like at this stage. What you'll see is a mixture of 48 single detached dwelling lots, as well as 38 semi-detached dwelling lots and a stormwater management facility. There is a central road, public road, proposed through the development to connect Union and Center Streets, and that would be Street A on the map. And there will also be a series of private condominium roads identified as blocks on the property through which most of the single detached dwellings will get their access from. The majority of the semi-detached dwellings are directly off of Street A, with the exception of a few of the lots. We'll go on to the next slide here. And so what you have in front of us, in front of you now, is a map showing an excerpt from the county official plan. And what you see in red there is designated as the primary settlement area. And I could have a very similar map showing the Meaford official plan. It would be kind of a beigey yellow color, and that would be designating it as a urban living area. And what all this means when we talk about planning, when we talk about official plans are a way for a community and a municipal council to identify their goals and land use desires for the properties moving forward. So Grey County in their official plan has set this as a fully serviced primary settlement area where we want some growth to occur. And Meaford has further elaborated on that in their own official plan, designating this as an urban living area. So meaning that we're more likely to see residential development in this area. And in just a second, I'm going to get into some of the policies in that regard. But this sets out the overall structure for the lands. And then there's further things, including the input here tonight, that will shape what the actual development looks like. I should note, as we've heard about, this development will be fully serviced with municipal water and municipal sewer services. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide. And so we heard about the official plans and the designations for development. The other thing we have on these lands is the existing zoning. And what you can see there is the existing zoning in that yellow color with the D is zoned for development. And essentially the development zone is a bit of a waiting zone, if you like, in that development hasn't necessarily occurred yet. But as development comes forward in terms of a plan of subdivision or a plan of condominium, that's when you would expect to see the development zone be rezoned to one of Meaford's residential zones. In this case, what the developer is proposing is what's called a residential 4 zone, an R4 zone, with some exceptions. And those exceptions would look at the frontage, as well as the maximum lot coverage of these units, and would allow for single detached units, as we've talked about, and semi-detached units as well. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide. And so what I talked about before was the fact that we have these broad official plans, and they set some overall guidance for new developments within our communities. And so at the county level, and these policies are echoed at the Meaford level, for new residential developments by way of plan of subdivision, we ask that these new developments be at a minimum of 20 units, so 20 new dwellings per net hectare. And when I say net hectare, what I mean by that is the land that's used for residential purposes. So we take away any of the lands that are used for roads or for park space or for stormwater management, and we solely look at what portion of the development are being used for the dwellings, if you will. In this case, the county sets that minimum threshold as 20 units per net hectare, but many developments will go beyond this. And for this proposed development, as it stands today, they're looking at a density of just about 22 units per net hectare. And so when we talk about this, the numbers on the page and the draft plan of subdivision don't really tell you a whole lot in terms of how that development will look and feel. And that's where staff at the municipality and the county, as well as the proponent and their consultants and the input here today, will help shape what that development ends up looking like beyond just the number. So the number will tell you sort of how many homes there's going to be, but there's a lot of other things that go into development that help make for a more livable look and feel to the community. And those are the type of things we really need input on, especially those living in the area currently. So we'll go on to the next slide. So one of the questions that often comes up when we talk about developments of this nature is, why do we need development at this density? In many cases, in neighborhoods like this, maybe the Gates of Kent excluded, the existing homes weren't built at this density. So why would the county and the municipality consider building more homes here? Why can't we replicate what we already have? And in this case, we do so for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is because the province directs us to. They've directed us to use our land within our settlement areas efficiently and also use our municipal services efficiently. And so those include things like water and sewer services, but those also include other services like our roads and some of our soft services, things like our schools and our libraries and other services that support a livable community in this regard. And by using this land efficiently and by having a certain threshold for units on this development, it helps municipalities and the county be able to afford to continue to maintain these services. And so although the developer will be installing the water and sewer services and building the roads, except for the condo roads, once those are assumed by the municipality, it'll be the municipality and the existing tax base that pays for this infrastructure over time. So we want to make sure that when we're considering new development, that we are using this land and considering the efficient use of the infrastructure appropriately. Let's go on to the next slide. I'm almost done here, I promise. And so tonight, we've heard that the lands are going to be used for residential purposes, and we've heard that there's guiding policies in the county and municipality and Meaford official plans that talk about maybe the number of residential units and the types of residential units that we might want to see on these lands. But we really want input here today on what you think about this development. And when I say you, I mean both the members of the public that have chosen to join us in person and virtually today, and also from members of council. So some things you might want to think about are the proposed housing types. Do you think that single detached dwellings and semi-detached dwellings are a good mix for this area? What do you think about the layout of the development? Do you have opinions from living in the area with respect to traffic and roads and sidewalks and safety? I know we've heard some comments already that people have submitted in writing that have given us some input here. What are your opinions on things like landscaping or tree retention, possibly fencing or drainage or privacy matters to your own home? Do you feel there's anything missing from this development? Is there other things that we should be considering here, we being the municipality and the county? And do you have any other questions or comments? And as the mayor read out at the beginning of the meeting, you don't necessarily need to be fully in support of or in opposition to this development. You can simply choose to ask questions and learn. And even after tonight, there'll be opportunities for you to further ask questions of county and municipal staff or provide your feedback. So if you want to just consider what you hear today and write an email or a letter after the fact, we certainly would accept feedback in all forms in that regard. And so with that, let's go on to the next slide. And this is just the contact information for my colleague Stephanie here today. And with that, my presentation is done. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions, but I believe we have a presentation coming up from Mr. Travis that might give us some more detail on the proposed development.
Thanks very much, Scott. That was very helpful. And you're quite right. The next on our agenda is to hear from Mr. Travis. And so we welcome you, Mr. Travis. If you feel comfortable, sir, you may remove your mask.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
At the outset, Madam Mayor, members of council, and the general public, again, for the record, my name is Colin Travis, Madam Clerk, Travis and Associates, and we are the planning consultants of record with this on this file. And if we can go to the next slide, and while we do that, I just want to mention that a lot of the information that Scott has presented is we have virtually the same information because we're drawing from the same sources. And so, and again, I can probably add a little bit more detail. But again, as you said, Madam Mayor, at the beginning of the meeting, the basic purpose behind all of this is to present what we are proposing and to receive comments and questions on what we're proposing and concerns. I don't think we can answer all the questions. I don't think we can address all the comments. But what I can assure council, staff, and the public is that in our next submission, or the answers to some of the questions and the comments, will take the form of a comments matrix. So on one column will be all the issues and the questions and the concerns raised by agencies and members of the public and council, and what our response is and how we're going to resolve those. So again, that'll be part and parcel of a package that will be coming to council and before the public. The next slide, please. The team, and again, this is a partial list of the team. Again, Crozier and Associates, the engineers, the archaeological consultants, AMIC have done a fair amount of work in this area. DS Consultants with the soils and the geotech. Paul Thompson, the ZEP surveying firm, is helping with the topo and with the boundary survey, and of course yours truly. One of the things that is not on this is just for everyone's information is the owners are listed in the applications as being a numbered company, and as always there are faces behind a numbered company, and in this case we have five faces. And I'd like to, again, for the record, read into the record that there are 5 partners that form part of this company, and they bring to the table a varying skill sets: construction, development, management, and sales, marketing. And the 5 individuals are Mike Kulismo, Mitchell Williams, Ryan Rebello, Varun Gupta, and Faisal Hamadi. And one of the things they did want me to stress at the public meeting was they have made an attempt to use as many local or regional consulting teams as possible, and they want to continue that theme as they proceed through the development. So if we can go to the next slide, I think we're going to get into, again, site location. Again, Scott has mentioned and referred to the location. Everyone is aware of that. The next slide, please. Again, I don't have as recent of an air photo as Scott had. I think this is 2015, but again, it does show it's an air photo. We're looking at the mid-block parcel. We're looking at about 7 singles that surround that parcel on the one side onto the front onto center. About 6 singles that are backing onto the subject lands that front onto Union. And the characteristics of this neighborhood it's classic sort of urban fringe sort of neighborhood where you have the urban area and then the agricultural, and there's this fringe area in between that's developed over the past, well, in particular, the past 30, 40, 50 years. Next slide, please. I think Scott touched on a lot of what I'm going to be saying, so I'm going to go through this probably a bit quicker. Can we go to the next slide? So we're here today because the reality is that planning in Ontario it's top down. It's from the province down, and we are required to heed planning policy issued by the province. At the top of that hierarchical list of policies, and planning is policy driven in Ontario, is the what is called the PPS, the Provincial Policy Statement. Under that provincial policy statement are a series of provincial plans. And the growth plan is to the east and to the south, and we have an agri-escarpment plan. That's an example of a provincial plan. Next, it would be the Grey County official plan, and then we have the local official plan. And generally, as you go through that hierarchy, you get into from sort of general policy guidelines and through to more detailed policy. So the policies that we find in the Town of Meaford official plan are a lot more detailed than what we would find in the provincial policy statement. However, whatever is in the Meaford official plan, or Grey County official plan for that matter, has to be consistent with those provincial directions. And that has a lot to do with, if you go to the next slide, it has a lot to do with the directions of the PPS. And again, as Scott mentioned, there are probably 3 legs to the stool. The first is the province has policies that look to building strong and healthy communities. And what does that mean? Well, under the PPS, it talks about efficient development. What does that mean? Again, Scott referenced. It is an efficient use of land. It's utilizing existing municipal services or extensions to those municipal services. It is to provide for a range of housing types and, again, employ cost-effective development. Also speaks to the second leg of that stool would be the wise use and management of resources. Again, protecting natural, cultural, and archaeological resources. And the third leg is protecting public health and safety. And a primary primary example of that would be keeping development away from hazard lands, steep slopes, areas prone to flooding. So that's PPS. Then the next slide should hit the Grey County official plan. If we can go, there we go. So as Scott mentioned, the area within which this land is located is in a primary settlement area in the Grey County official plan. And what does that mean? Well, under that kind of category, it means that these areas, these primary settlement areas, are the primary targets for growth within Grey County. And what else is there? It seeks to encourage a compact urban form. And these are policies that are in the Grey County official plan. And as a way of encouraging and attaining the goal of a compact urban form, they set a minimum density for new development at 20 units per net hectare. And so you can see how that kind of falls from the PPS, some of the PPS policies. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see the Meaford official plan. And again, in the yellow area would be the designated urban living area. And in the Meaford official plan, it gets into details on what are the permitted uses within that designated urban living area. And the permitted uses include, for residential, they include singles, they include semis, duplex, towns, and apartments. And those are the kind of dwelling types. It's a broad category that the OP sees within the urban living area. And the proposed density and uses comply with the official plan. Now, Madam Mayor, members of council, and members of the public, part of the submission that we have made in support of this application includes a planning justification report. And that planning justification report had several pages detailing all of these policies and how we meet these policies. So again, that I believe is available through the town planning department. So I've just touched the surface, but there's a lot more detail, and that would be, as I said, within the planning justification report. The next slide is going to, again, similar to the slide that Scott had shown. It shows the subject lands as being Zone D development. And right now, the range of uses within the D zone are very limited. Basically, whatever's there existing right now, agricultural uses and daycare. The lands that are the mauvey color or the bluish color to the north at the top of the page, the RM, would be the Gates of Kent for location context. And then the green or the EP lands would be the environmental lands to the left, or to the right, or to the east. Next slide. So the proposal, again, in a nutshell, would be two parts. One is the application for a draft plan of subdivision, and the second one is an application for a zoning bylaw amendment. And the purpose of that zoning bylaw amendment is to implement the draft plan of subdivision. But when we go to the next slide, and again, we're looking at some of the characteristics, and Scott mentioned some of the input and questions and responses from the general public, as well as agencies, would be dealing with the form, the unit types, and the unit mix. But on the form, we're looking at one public road connecting, it's an east-west road. Under that road will be, again, water looping services and sanitary sewer services. And we'll be building that road to Street A in the middle of that graphic. Street A will be built to municipal standards. There are 3 condo roads that are shown as blocks 71, 72, and 73. And the idea of that is to feed, or to have the traffic off of Street A and then feed the singles and the semis. There is one stormwater management facility, and that is situated in the lower right-hand side or the southeast quadrant of the draft plan. And that has been sized according to, based on, again, the calculations for stormwater management purposes and storm events by CF Crozier. And again, part of this application process, as always with every study that we have submitted, there's a feedback loop. And so there may be questions about some of the assumptions that we've used in some of this material, and then we address those assumptions, and if we have to adjust, then we feed it back into the model, and we confirm or amend things accordingly. And just, again, when talking with the owners, when would they like to build? They'd like to build tomorrow if they could, but that's unrealistic. They'd like to build in 2022. The next slide gets into some of the numbers, and again, 5.2 hectares is the size of the land. Of the 5.2 hectares, the actual area used for residential lots is 3.8 and change. Over a hectare is used for roads, 0.37 for the swim. The 48 singles, they have a variable range from 11 to 13 meter frontages, and the semis, they're going to be 7.5 meter frontages, 86 units in total. Scott had the calculation at 21.9, I think, units per net hectare. We did 22.5. I think we included another parcel somewhere, so we'll revisit that. But we're still around 22 on this plan. I'm aware of the comments about lot 17, which, again, you can't see it on that graphic too much, but it's a lot that fronts. It's on that westerly frontage there, and the house that we're intending to build on lot 17 will be fronting onto the road. It's not going to have a rear yard fronting onto the public road. The other, as a result of the pre-consultation that we had with agencies, including Grey County, the town of Meaford planning staff, and the Great Solway Conservation Authority, we arrived at some other influences on this draft plan. For example, the location of a stormwater management facility, and also a design request that wherever we are proposing units, to try to have singles backing onto singles. And granted, the lots are smaller, but earlier iterations of this plan had townhouses on this plan backing onto the singles. And again, rethinking and relooking at it, we've adjusted the plan to have singles, for the most part, backing onto existing singles, and the semis are internal to the subdivision. The next slide. The zoning proposal, we were looking at the range of existing zoning categories within the Meaford zoning bylaw, and the council may be aware you got R1, R2, R3, R4, and across the board. And we were looking for the zoning category that best reflected the ability to implement the subdivision plan. And we were suggesting, proposing that the R4 zone exception be the zone. So rezoning from D to R4-XX, some exception number. And one of the reasons for the other two sort of arrows and call-out boxes on that graphic on the right-hand side is to say that within the zoning bylaw, within your R4 category, the list of permitted uses includes semis as well as singles. And we're proposing 7.5 meter wide semis, and this particular table in the bylaw doesn't recognize that, although the table, the R3 zone does recognize it as a 7.5 meter wide semi. So we're looking to slightly amend this table for these lands as this table applies to allow for semis. The other thing that we see at the bottom of the table is there, under the R4 category, there's an NA, which probably means not applicable, but it's on line item number 10, which is the maximum coverage for lot coverage. And so again, similar to the R3 zone, was suggesting that proposing that the maximum, that be amended to include and put a maximum number in there, 40%. I think those are, it's relatively straightforward, but those are the changes that we're looking for in the zoning bylaw proposal. The next slide. Again, Scott went through the list of studies that have been submitted, and we're working on some additional, there are some additional investigations going on with geotech and soils. It's like a stage 2 sort of investigation. We'll have those results, and obviously they'll be available posted on the town website and be available for review by staff and peer consultants, peer reviewer consultants. The next slide. And again, without getting into details, and again, I can say that the questions over traffic are going to be highlighted in our response matrix when we put that together. And we will have numbers that put into perspective the traffic loading from this subdivision onto adjacent streets. The servicing, we're aware that there are EA studies going underway right now, and we have to fit into the results of those EA studies, and capacity matters. Your official plan has very good policies when it comes to phasing development and controlling how much can go ahead at one time. And so we'll be following those, and I'm sure that planning staff will implement that sort of thing. As I said, a phase 2 soils report is underway, and archaeological, there were no artifacts found, and so it was cleared for development. And again, the bullet that didn't quite make it on there was the planning justification report. As I said, we went through the policies, we went through the rules and regulations, and we concluded that we conform to the intent of those policies and that sort of thing. I think the next slide, we're getting to the end here. The next slide. In 5.2 hectares, it began in June 2020 with a pre-consultation. I will say, Madam Mayor, that your review process with your planning staff has been very efficient. We've had a lot of cooperation with responses from Greg, Solid Conservation Authority, from the county, and your planning staff. They're running a very tight ship there. The singles and semis that were proposed, again, the zoning bylaw will implement this subdivision. Keeping in mind that zoning bylaw will have limits on height and setbacks, lot coverage, unit type. The other conclusion, as I mentioned earlier on, Madam Mayor, we've reviewed this in terms of policy, and the next steps are from our point of view, is to again receive the comments and the questions from tonight, We'll review those internally. We will review our responses with staff and the commenting agencies and provide that information. We have a little bit more work to do with, as I said, it's an iterative process in some of those studies, i.e. the drainage. And we'll be feeding that information back to and through your planning department portal. The next one, I think that's it. Madam Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Travis, for a very thorough report. Again, very helpful in understanding the technical language that we have to consider. At this point, we'll open it up for public input. And we do have several folks who have pre-registered with the Legislative Services earlier today, and we will call upon them to speak first. We have one in person and several by virtual presentation. So I will ask you to come forward. Mr. Chris Bruno is here with us today, and to come forward to the microphone. And again, if you feel comfortable, sir, you can remove your mask.
Just have a few questions. I'm at 195 Center Street, the property that borders the north limit of the subdivision. Just the timeline of construction and how it relates to the wastewater management plant. Is there any timeline on when this would come online with the expansion of the wastewater plant?
We won't have any responses to questions at this point. All of the questions will be if we can have staff respond to them at the end of the presentations, we can certainly cover all of those.
Okay. Actually, I only had really mostly questions. And just is there going to be a phasing to the subdivision? Mm-hmm. Or is there a requirement for phasing?
We will have staff respond to all of the questions. We're just going to be listening here today and collecting all of the questions, and then we'll have a chance at the end of all of the questions. We will have a chance for our staff and the proponents to respond. And if we still have further work to do, the answers will come back in the form of a staff report coming back to council. So. Right now, we're not going to be answering questions. We're just going to be receiving your questions right now.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I can carry on?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just as far as, I know there's probably still the detailed plans, but like a grading landscape plan, because we have quite a bit of property on the north side of this development. What will be the requirement? Is it a chain link fence, or is there a tree buffer, or? To see what's going to be on the north limit of the property.
Okay.
And also, just a question, like with the density of the subdivision, is there a requirement for a park, or was there a requirement for a local park within the subdivision? Because all the other, we're trying to incorporate it into the existing density of the area. They're mostly large lots and big properties. Where are these people going to go once they're moved in? Are they going to have a park to access? Because they're fairly small lots. So I don't know if that's a requirement to.
Okay.
If should be a park put in there somewhere. That's about it.
And that's it?
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you for joining
great.
us
Thank
today,
you.
and thank
All
you
right.
for your questions. We do have 4, I guess 5 virtual questions coming forward. And although, Glenn Granger, would that be you, Beaker? Then you are here. Would you care to come to the microphone?
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Glenn Granger. Most of you know me as Beaker.
Beaker.
Lived in this area a long time, raised in Walters Falls. Beautiful area. We all love it. A lot of you have come here for that very reason, because it's a beautiful, small community area. Now, the proposed changes in our neighborhood are going to be disastrous in our humble opinion. We're already dealing with a raceway on Center Street and Union Street that no one seems to want to touch. We have, I know a lot of the residents here have raised that issue over and over. It's a street that's no longer safe to walk down. It's a street that has been a walking street for years. So if this development is to go forward, sidewalks are an absolute must in our area. And they must be installed and maintained year-round. One of our biggest concerns for this development is we live at 236 Center Street. Any chance we could have this slide back up again, please, of the actual area and the development? It would certainly make my point far easier than me just saying
I'm
it.
getting a no from the back
Oh.
there, sorry.
Okay, well, in that
We'll-
case.
we've marked that
if you
236.
If you all have access to the plans proposed here, you can look at the road that is proposed between Center Street and Union Street. And if you look at where that road ends, that's our house. That is our windows, that is our bedroom windows, our living room. We have a raceway on Center Street now. You put a road across there, you're pointing it right at us. They're not gonna, I don't know what the solution for the racing up and down is, other than to ask the OPP to perhaps patrol a little more and do their jobs. I don't mean that rudely in any way. We are concerned there. I'm also concerned of the wildlife. No one ever seems to bring that up in these proposals. I didn't hear anything from the gentleman proposing this about what to do about the wildlife. Anyone who knows and lives in our area knows we have many, many packs of coyotes and perhaps even wolves in our area, but definitely packs of coyotes that roam through there constantly. I hear them every single night, every night. Where are they going to go? Are we going to be Collingwood next and we're going to have people complaining that there's coyotes in their backyard? We're in their backyard, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're building. Same as the deer. The deer have nowhere to go. The rabbits will be gone. I know that sounds like it's a tree hugger issue, but it is an issue, people. It is an issue. We are threatening our environment by building more and more dense communities rather than fitting in with what's going on around us. Center Street was a beautiful, family-oriented community. It's changing, and you folks can precipitate that change for the better or for the worse. And that is in your hands. I just want to say that when my wife and I bought at Center Street more than 20 years ago, we bought that house there to raise our two youngest boys in this beautiful community and to retire here, to live out our lives in peace and just in a lovely small community. The mayor knows, we've worked together in this very building. We had a great relationship working for the town in this very building. I've had great relationships with some of the folks on stage working together for this town. It's a beautiful small town, folks. You only get one chance at it, and if we destroy it by bringing more of these communities in and bringing more and more density, let's say, then where's the small community anymore? We're about to, where we live on Center Street, are about to be in the middle of suburbia in 2 years. And in my opinion, that's not what I bought it for. It's not fair to us, to people who have been here, contributed to this community for years, and continue to stay and contributed to this community for years. So I please ask you to consider us as well as we welcome people. We always have, we always do, but come on, there is a bit of a limit here. We only have so many resources to deal with. We only have one small hospital that is already on its last legs and is always in need of support. We have town facilities that are kind of at their breaking point at times because of budgets, and you add more on top of that. I'm just going to leave you with this thought. There's going to be about 200 cars added to Center Street and Union Street with this subdivision. You're pointing a lot of them at us. We're asking for a redesign, perhaps. If that's out of the question, then we're asking for some kind of mitigation on this. We're also asking for some compensation because our property value will be devalued with lights pointed at our house. No one can dispute that. I thank you for your time, and I hope you will really, really consider the citizens and the community of Meaford as it is. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. Well said. Okay, we're moving on now to, we have Deborah Kirbyson and Michael Lloyd, and I think they're virtual. Are they with us now?
Yes, hi.
Hi there. Please go ahead.
So, thank you very much, Beaker. We're your new neighbors right next door at 230 Center Street. And I'm glad to see that Beaker has addressed most of our concerns. And we, not like Beaker, just moved into this home at 230 Center Street a year ago. And we didn't know when we bought the property, because we had a beautiful view of the conservation area behind us, that someone had bought the space behind us and is building a large, at 218 Center Street, is building a large raised bungalow behind us. But we're living with that. We've met them, and it's underway. So that being said, our concerns and our observations, in which I stated in my letter, is mostly about increased traffic on Center Street, and us as well are very concerned about having a Street A, which is more in front of Beaker's house than ours, but it's still in front of ours, and we address the same situations of car lights, headlights coming right into our living room window and bedroom window. I mean, in my bedroom, I have a lovely view out there. So, those are my personal feelings. But my general feelings, I think, have a lot to do with, yes, increased traffic caused by a dense community of 86 homes. And I think Beaker was quite correct, because I was doing the math, and I'm thinking just under 200 cars if I assume that maybe most of these homes, like everything else in Meaford, are two-car homes. So I just today glanced at the traffic reports, and I'm going to look at more of the planning reports to see if some of my complaints or observations are valid. Big concern, yeah. My big gut concern right away is that the driveway, Street A, coming out into Center Street, is aiming right at my house as well. More at Beaker's, but my house as well. And like I said, we moved here a year ago. We retired up here from Toronto. And so we're one of those people who chose to come up to a very idyllic, lovely place to retire. We have observed in the last year that Center Street is used heavily for pedestrians walking. Those walkers consist of seniors, retired people, families with strollers, people with pets, and cyclists. There are no sidewalks. There's no shoulder space here. So I think some of my concerns are addressed are directly to the municipality of Meaford, because there are racing cars going down the street. There is no traffic calming measures, no signage, and as Beaker pointed out as well, and I agree, very little OPP coverage, I guess. I feel very safe. This is a lovely environment to live in. I love seeing people walk. I guess I'm waiting a little bit, and this is another thing about this. Maybe the Center Street Park opening might allow people to walk down to the trail or walk around a park. And I really agree with Beaker about the green space, or the gentleman before, actually, that was Chris, who mentioned, within the property, the density, within this little subdivision, where are those people going to walk? They're all going to walk on Center Street, and I'm not too sure about Union Street, what the situation over there is, but this really is a true area where people walk. And nothing's written in the traffic report about pedestrian traffic, and that's it. We do also have concerns, of course, about the Stormwater project or facility and what that means. We see it all on the other side on Union Street. Is the runoff all designed to go that way? Because we've experienced the property behind us at 218 Center Street. I think they didn't get their planning right, because when they first started, when they put the foundation in, they discovered they had a real problem with the groundwater and had to bring in an agricultural irrigation system after the fact, which wasn't part of their plan, to move the water off, like backwards. I mean, we're downhill, all downhill from the front of our house, to move the water into the ravine, I guess. And still, even the water, big storm we had a few weeks ago, our sump pump has not stopped working. And so we're concerned about water runoff. I was concerned about snow removal. I haven't been up here long enough to really know the experience of snow removal, but it's a concern. Where are they going to put all this snow? And we are a property that does not have wastewater. Is that what the word I'm looking for, Mike? Is we don't have, we're on septic. So we're wondering, you know, if any enhanced services like better roads, possibly putting in sidewalks, you know, are we going to have the opportunity someday soon to have wastewater at ours? We have drinking water coming in, but we're on septic going out. So I guess those are most of my concerns. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah. Really appreciate that, and welcome to Meaford.
Yeah, I'm new citizen up here.
And the next one we have, and again virtually, is Susan Toohey. Are you with us, Susan? I'm not hearing anything.
Maybe they have to.
Susan, are you with us? All right. We'll move on now till Donna Short, and I'll come back to Susan if she can join us. Donna, welcome. Donna's not on the line either. Okay.
They might be on Zoom.
And the last one we have is Rebecca Alexander and George Cooper, and that's virtual too.
Hi there, it's George Cooper. I'm with CF Crozier and Associates, part of the consulting team here.
Okay.
I was just on here to provide any responses if required, so I don't have any comments right now.
No comments right now? Okay, thanks very much. All right, we'll give Susan or Donna one more chance here if there's have found a microphone. Okay, and we'll note if they do have presentations or they do have comments, they want to submit them to our planning department. We'd be happy to take them into consideration at that time. So if there is anyone here today with us who hasn't registered but would like to voice some comments for or against or just because, we'd be happy to hear it at this point. We just ask you to come forward to the microphone and introduce yourselves. Of course. Go ahead.
Hello, Council. Thank you for having me. My name is Victoria Ye. I'm a resident of Meaford. I have a few comments that I'd like to share. The first is, as a former resident of the Gates of Kent, I did want to raise some concerns about snow storage, in that with this dense of a development, the experience at Gates of Kent, the snow is actually about this high against people's houses. So I don't know what consideration there is for the actual site to store snow. I feel like that's something that's often overlooked. I would also like to commend the proposal and the applicant for their conformity to the official plan, namely to Grey County's official plan section 9.13E, having a grid pattern connected streets. I think this is very important. And would also like to know, however, how it conforms to section 9.13C and the equivalent in the Meaford official plan, which is improving and promoting walkability, cyclability within the proposed plans through sidewalks, bike lanes, bicycle parking racks, etc. With the official plan, of course, I'm sure this audience knows that the proponent needs to consider and be prepared to justify that. So I did not see sidewalks and pedestrian infrastructure in this proposal. By extension, and I think these concerns have been voiced by the various comments that were already received, is that the area is a very heavily trafficked area by pedestrians. So it's families that are walking just out for exercise, walking pets, children, people getting to the downtown core to services, children getting to school, etc. It is becoming a more and more dangerous place to walk. There aren't sidewalks. In the winter, it's far worse because, of course, the snow reduces the pedestrians' ability to walk on people's lawns when cars are coming. So what is the town's plan to extend the active transportation network to service this development? I feel strongly, I think that you should all feel strongly that we should not be developing anything outside of our core without considering the connection of these developments to the core. People obviously live there, so they're gonna have to get out of the development and get into the community. I'd also would like to know what assurances we have as a community that this entire process is not for nothing. We saw at Gates of Kent that Gates of Kent went through a similarly rigorous process of county and municipal reviews and proposals, public input, etc., engineering review that was approved in a public and transparent process, and yet amendments were made and the amendments countered 3 official plan policies, which, as the mayor opened the meeting, conforming to official plan is a legal requirement. Those amendments that were made behind closed doors without public consultation, without any engineering review, and they were also done without any consideration or formal consultation with EMS. So what are our assurances as a community that this process and the spirit of this process is actually carried through to the termination and the eventual execution of this development? Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. There was another individual. Hi,
Hello,
welcome.
My name is John Behrens, and I live on 277 Union Street. And what I'm asking is, how is the sewage system going to get to this community? Is it, like, I'm concerned, is it going to go up Union Street and interfere with the 200-foot trees that are on the road? I don't know how that works, so that's my concern. How is the sewage system going to get in there? And if it goes up Union Street, can I get connected to it because I'm on septic? That's, the traffic and everything else has been addressed, so whatnot. So, but one thing I would like to see, like if it's, development, I see that the lot behind me is all D, which is subject to development, is, if it's development's coming, and I know development's coming, why can't it be high end? I know it has to be density because you have to get your money from taxes, but why doesn't it, there's a feel to that neighborhood. Big lots, nice houses, lots of room, and then bang, this high density. Why can't it just, consider high-end homes instead? That's all. Big lots and high-end homes.
Okay, thank you for that. Hi.
Madam Chair, Madam Deputy Mayor, Councilors. My name is Vince Rogers, and I am with the core group of Imagine Meaford. And I guess I'm here just to support our fellow residents. And from what I'm hearing, they've got some very valid points. Just a couple of things that I jotted down was just the concern about the green space. It sounds good, but to, I believe it was Beaker's point, that people don't live here to move here to be in the middle of Mississauga. They want, a quality of life. So I would like some consideration to the green space, both accessible and usable, and what that looks like. Maybe as a statement, Imagine Meaford, we are for mixed development. And I mean that in the truest sense to your point. And I'm just wondering how this subdivision fits with the, the affordable and attainable housing strategy that we've been kind of talking about so much. So that's kind of all the points that I have. So.
Thank you very much, Vince. Appreciate your input. Anything further from our audience?
Hello.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for taking my question, although I didn't register. I'm just going to explain to you a little bit.
Can you tell us who you are, please?
Sorry, my name is Angela Pauliu. I live at
Thank you.
253 Center Street. I back directly onto the development. I'd just like to give you a bit of an idea what it's like to live on Center Street. When the orchard, is what we all called it, was back there, it was its own ecosystem. And December 17th, after all the animals were bedded down for the winter, bulldozers showed up without warning, without notice, and just devastated the area, which was very sad to see. It was its own ecosystem, like I said, so to see that gone all in one day was it was heartbreaking. I'm going to echo a lot of the comments here about traffic. I've been here for about 12 years. My children have not learned how to ride their bikes on Center Street. It is a racetrack for dirt bikes, for ATVs. It's like you can't even see them go by. I've asked OPP. We've also lived through the Gates of Kent construction, and we've made several complaints because the Gates of Kent came through in several phases, and that took years. And that was years of dump trucks and heavy equipment banging down the street at unreasonable speeds. Center Street has been forgotten by the town. There's no speed limits. There is no patrolling. There is nothing but beautiful space. And that was the draw for us as well. I understand that that's a development area, but I forget the term this gentleman used, was compact
Density?
Density, compact density. Those are two words that I don't believe fit into the landscape or geographical region of this town, and especially of Center Street. That's what doesn't make sense to me. And it would be sad to see that's the whole desire, and that would be gone. So I look at that and I just cringe, but that's just myself. I understand that development needs to come and change, and as much as we can say it's pushed down from the province, ultimately you guys have control of what happens in our town and our county. And I just wanted to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate you. Anyone else? Yes, please come forward.
Good evening, through your worship and councillors. My name is Reed Barrett. I'm a resident here in Meaford and have owned property for the past 16 years. I don't live in this immediate area, but I did want to, as I reviewed the plans for this, I did want to echo some of the things that I heard tonight about parks, green space, walkability. I know how important that is to a community, and the linking of this community to the core area, I think is key for Meaford. Also, I do know that in this area we get a lot of snow, and snow removal, the smaller your lot, the tougher it is to really manage it well. I'm a little concerned. I haven't seen a 7.5 frontage before, but I'm sure that it's not a lot of room for snow. So I would just encourage in the design and in the plan that we've really made the exception to manage the snow well. And because it is close to a school, there's going to be lots of traffic, taking kids to different sports events, parks, and things are very important. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Reed. Appreciate your time. Hi.
Hi, good evening, Your Worship, everyone else. I'm from Gates of Kent. I apologize for all those trucks, but they enabled me my wife and I to move here. Chris Sanderson, by the way, Gates of Kent. I have echoed a lot of concerns of Victoria. I moved here from Toronto where unfettered development, let's make a deal development, has destroyed a lot of neighborhoods. And my wife and I moved to Meaford for this lifestyle. And I agree that development is a necessary and evolutionary part of towns, but it has to be managed and it has to be smart development. And I think that creating a level of density that is incompatible with the local area is only going to create problems. I can testify. I'm an avid cyclist. I can testify. I've had 3 close calls that I can attest to on Centre Street. I agree with the local residents. It is a racetrack. I mean, in Toronto, there's no problem finding radar cops. I like to see a couple of radar officers on Centre Street. I think it's important to manage growth. I would hate to see Meaford become like Collingwood. We have a gem here. I fell in love with this area 20 years ago when I started coming up here to go cycling, and we have a gem in this town. And I agree development is needed, but please let's manage it. Let's be smart about it. And let's not destroy the character that is this town and the character that brought so many folks here. So, and as far as the snow, I can tell you, Gates of Kent, I ran out of places to put it. Okay, I got pictures of, so snow removal definitely is an issue. Anyway, Your Worship, thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your time and your comments. I'm not seeing anyone. Oh, Victoria? A PS.
Yes, sorry, I had forgotten to ask one question. Under also my comment on section 9.13C under the Grey County official plan of a proposal being walkable, etc. My question is, will the proponent consider urban street design strategies to calm traffic? I think this is a big theme that we've heard tonight, and also just anywhere in the entire municipality. And not talking about speed bumps, but rather design tools such as pinch points. Speeding traffic is possible and very probable based on the current experiences that we have in the town and similar developments. Signs and enforcement will never replace proper design and best in practice design. There's a lot of literature available to us. I would like to see the proponent incorporate some of these things to mitigate the known speeding problem at the design level.
Thanks very much, Victoria.
I just had one last question as well, please.
Go ahead.
I'm very curious. I've asked a couple times, and I know the municipality is very busy, but I'm just curious, and I'm sure a lot of us are we under any MZOs in this region at the moment? Is this particular development especially under an MZO? Thank you.
Thank you, Baker. All right.
Okay, it's just Susan Chewy here. Thanks for letting me. I had a bit of technical difficulty. I just want to say a few things. Lived up here on this hill for all my life. I just want to reinstate, like, the traffic is a huge concern. And we all talked about Center Street, and I live on Center Street, but let's not forget Union Street too, because I walk this block every night, and I tell you, streetlights and sidewalks, if we're gonna go ahead with this, are a must for both streets, because it is very dangerous. Actually, when a car comes, I'll move out to the middle of the road to slow them down, so they have to slow down. So I totally believe like sidewalks and streetlights for both roads is going to have to be a must. And I do worry too about if they put that tobogganing hill in, that's going to add more traffic to Center Street. So that's something that we just need to think of also. I do want to say Ange had a great concern about the timeline, because we too lived through the Gates of Kent, and I love the Gates of Kent, but it took years for that to go up in different phases, and the dump trucks wrecked our road. So like, what is going to be the process and the timeline if the subdivision goes ahead? And I just have one other concern, and that's just the lot size. For the people that have lots backing on our properties, I heard there was a precedent out on the new subdivision going in on the Kennedy farm that the people that had lots on the back of their property weren't happy when we have 3 or 4 people in our backyard, that they were thinking that they should make those lots a bigger lot so that we don't have as many neighbors in our backyard. So that's just a thought, and if you could take that into consideration when you're looking at it, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Susan. Glad you could finally join us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else come forward. So I'll first ask council if there's any comments that they wish to make at this point. We will certainly have another chance when we get our staff report come forward. Deputy Mayor.
Your Worship, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'd just like to begin by thanking everyone here with us tonight, whether you're here in the hall or with us virtually, for taking the time to share your comments, because it is so important to bring all of those concerns forward and to the attention of council and to the attention of our planners, so that we all recognize what your concerns are. And I just want you to know you've been heard loud and clear. I understand the traffic issues, and I know we'll be looking at traffic calming measures in your area. I know that you're anxious to see green space, and I understand the drainage and the stormwater issues. So please know that as site plans and further discussions come forward to this council, that we will be asking those questions and that we will be looking for solutions to those problems. So again, thank you for being here and for sharing your concerns with us tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Kentner.
Thank you. Through your worship, I just wondered if, Mr. Travis, if you could maybe name a few communities where these 5 partners have built subdivisions in the recent past.
Mr. Travis.
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, I will get that information to staff and they'll provide that to you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd also be curious about what exactly attracted them to Meaford and to this part of Meaford, and what really is your target market, and also some indication of price point on singles and semis in the development. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Ross. And Councillor Vickers.
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. I too echo the comments of Deputy Mayor about thanking everybody that has taken the time to come and talk to us about it, about the proposal. And I guess my biggest concern really is the sidewalks, because it looks like in the plan there is no sidewalks on that main street. Is there, Rob?
Yeah, through your worship. So the through road going from Union to Center will be a municipal road, and our municipal standards require a sidewalk to be built. So on the municipal side, it will be there would be a sidewalk requirement based on our engineering standards. I think the bigger issue, though, what we've heard loud and clear, is what happens on Union Center Street,
right.
And we will address that in the report.
The other concern I thought when I looked at the plan was the through street, and like the gates of Kent, I always had concerns why people would desire to have that street, because obviously that creates traffic going from one side to the other. And so that's one of my questions is, I guess Victoria, she said it's in the official plan from the county that there's supposed to be throughways, and to me, that just creates more shortcuts. I guess it does prevent them it does help people not to have to go down to the curve at the end of Center Street. But it is a concern, and I question whether it should be a through street or not. But the through street and the sidewalks is my concerns, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Vickers. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship, and first of all, thank you to everyone for coming out tonight or coming out virtually. Great questions, a lot of concerns. We've got a long ways to go on this one, I would think. I did want to ask Mr. Travis about the condo roads, not Street A, but the condo streets. And maybe this is too early, and if it is, tell me. But I'm just wondering, is it going to be parking allowed on both sides of those streets? And if so, boy, where are the pedestrians going to go? Where are the bikers going to go? As I say, if it's too early to discuss that, let me know. The other question I have is about, you mentioned the stormwater management facility. And to me, when I hear the word facility, I think of a building, a structure. And I'm just wondering, here again, I know it's early in the game, but are you thinking of some kind of a building with an enclosed reservoir, or are we just looking at an open pond for that facility? Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay. And over to you, Mr. Travis.
Again, thank you, Madam Mayor, and to the councillor. With regards to the first question, the condo roads are going to be designed, they have about a 7.5 meter wide right-of-way right now, and we will be working with staff to go into more detail as to what goes within that right-of-way. And again, parking restrictions on one side are certainly going to be in place. With regards to the facility, I apologize if I misled you. It is a stormwater management pond. I've used facility in the generic term. It is a stormwater management pond. It has 2 bays and for quality and quantity control.
Thank you.
Okay. So Rob, I will turn it over to you. Do you have any comments from our planning development services?
Not at this point, Madam Mayor. We will again
Address them in
collate,
the
have the
report.
discussions with the applicant and respond through our planning report that would come back to council.
Super. And now over to you, Scott. Any comments from the county perspective?
Yeah, nothing further at this time, other than if people have any further comments, they're welcome to submit them to the county and the municipality, and we'll look into them further and work with the proponent on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Travis, you've been called upon a couple of times for questions. Do you have anything further that you'd like to add at this point?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And with, again, the public comments and the questions raised, the issues, they're very site-specific, some of them, and they're all, and a lot of them are neighborhood-related and have been around for a while. I can tell you that my clients have been watching and listening. We have a design team listening and watching. So, as I said earlier on, we will be preparing a response to the questions that we've heard in the comments, the issues, and we'll be providing staff with a comments matrix. I'm sure that will become public as well. And again, thank you, Mayor and members of council, as well as the general public.
Thank you, Mr. Travis. And I want to thank all of you for coming here tonight, for sharing your concerns. For those who have joined us virtually and those who have written in their comments, it's very important that we have these public meetings exactly for this purpose, so that we hear both for and against, and just in general comments about neighborhoods and how we want our communities to look as we go forward. I just want to reassure you that your comments have been heard. You've been heard by the proponent and the design team. We've been heard by both county and our municipal staff, and that all of these comments will be compiled into a staff report once they've satisfied that all the information that is necessary is there to provide council a recommendation going forward. Again, I will reiterate that this report will evaluate how the proposal does or does not satisfy provincial, county, and municipal policies. That must be part of council's decision. And it will also review the various public and agency comments received, and we will be looking very closely at the responses to the comments that we've heard today, the questions. You've been very, very thoughtful. You've been very respectful. We appreciate your time greatly, and welcome all of our participants to take part in this public meeting. So again, to anyone who is listening, I would reiterate again that if you have further comments and would like to receive notice of future decisions on this file from either the municipality or Grey County, to please provide your contact information, and we'll be sure to include your name in the responses. With that, I will declare this meeting closed, and thank you all for coming. We really appreciate your time this evening.